Hello everyone, my name is Vanessa Jing. I'm the founder and mentor for Smart Corporate Estates. Back in 2013, when I started investing property at the time, I have negotiated and closed a lot of the deals in the first 6 months. Unfortunately, I got 7 property deals fell through in the first 6 months. So some of these property deals I have got below market value, £25,000 to £50,000. But I did not know how to manage the process. So 7 property deals fell through within 6 months. It had a massive knock-on effect to how many property I was able to buy later on. So reflecting on that situation, today I would like to share with you a few different steps, a few different tips and steps how you can manage the process when you're acquiring property. So let's go. After you negotiate a property deal that agent and seller agree to the offer that you have made, in your mind, you feel that you have already got the keys in hand, but often it's not the case because there is so many different things during the time when you close the deal to the time that you actually have your keys in hand. I could just give you a few different situations. What happens so that you can avoid these happen to you? So the first thing, some people buy properties with the house that needs some work doing to it. Now, in order for you to make a good offer, you might have get someone in to look at it, like a builder or a friend. I make a few mistakes in the past that I already agree purchase price with the agent. A couple of days later, agent call me up and say, Vanessa, sorry, someone else offer more money, and the seller have accepted that higher offer. Now, there could be many different reasons. It could be that it happens, someone else just know how much I offer and then top it up. I thought it could be those builders I brought to do the valuation and look at the job, the quotation itself, that might have go jump me. So it could be many other reasons. For you, when you make the offer, the way to avoid the deal to fall through is that you need to have the agreement with the agent as on what condition you will make the offer. Avoiding the back and forth, you will need to make sure that they understand this is a solid offer and all the property from that point onwards should be taken off from the market, right? So that's one thing, we call it agreement frame. You must have verbal or written agreement with the agent so that the deal's done. There's no more viewings, there's no more advertising, and there's no more higher offer to go jump you. That's the first thing. Second, you then need to make sure that you know about, ideally, if you can, particularly if you're doing the viewing with the seller, you wanted to make sure that the estate agent are helping you to complete the property, not to cause problem, because it is sometimes possible the agent try to sell it with higher price with somebody else, and that seller got to be on board with you, or your solicitor got to be on board with you. So you must have a process in place. You must have a process in place that you will check in regularly with your estate agent, that everyone's still happy, the seller's also happy, the agent's happy, the solicitor happy, right? Because if you just instruct the solicitor, and if there's any problems, you don't get to know, and then if the seller or agent get annoyed because your solicitor not in action and their solicitor causing problem, and vice versa, then this is going to cause you problem because the property deal could fall through. Yeah. The third thing is about who's actually involved in purchasing the property. When I first starting out, I was a beginner, so I thought I am the one involved, which I'm buying the property. The seller is the one involved, they are the one selling property, then it's the agent. Actually, it's not, because when my lender, the mortgage lender who lent me the money to buy the property, when they start to get involved, they send a surveyor in. Everything changes. What happened was the lender have sent someone in to value the property. And the valuer, the surveyor, go in and give their opinion. That opinion counted, heavily weighted, if the lender would have been able to accept or not your mortgage application. So, in terms of the lender, there was a few occasions with a very, very good property deal that I have. The lender put 100% retention on. Now, with 100% of retention, at the time as a beginner, I did not know how to overcome this. It was simply because, okay, the type of property, simply because it could be the damp in the house, simply because it could be old consumer unit system, and it could be a drainage problem. Whatever problem there are, this is only 100% retention. If I would have been experienced enough at the time, which I wasn't, so I lost those property deals. But if I were to be experienced enough now, I would be able to get a third party people to go in and get it sorted. But you learn about how to do these things in our program. We teach you every step how to address each problem. But here, all I'm telling you is you could have many different property that have issues stopping you to buy the property. If you've got a lender involved, you've got a survey involved, you will need to have the knowledge to address those issues so that you can still carry on. You could potentially get a different lender who don't mind about it, or you could potentially have a third-party contractor in and get it sorted before you're competing the property, whatever option you choose. So the fourth thing in terms of to avoid the deal fall through is that you've got to talk to your solicitor. So you pay money to your solicitor to buy the property, and they are the one representing you. And the cost is not cheap. Because they're working for you, they also act on behalf of the mortgage lender. You've got to have frequent communication with them about what's happening. Some solicitors work very slow. I have got a few property deals fell through because my solicitor taking far too long to act on it. For example, they do the search, and it takes them a long time to get the search coming back. And the amount of time for them to sit the pile on the desk to communicate with the opposite seller's solicitor far too long. So if your property solicitor is not acting fast enough, potentially they could causing you the lose of the deal. But if you agree with the seller that you don't want to be completed too long, a good solicitor could buy you more time if you don't want to complete it. I have got properties that 3 months delay on completion, 6 month delay on completion, or even a year delay on completion. So having a good solicitor is very important. You want their opinion about how to structure the deal and how fast could this be done, and if you need it to be faster or slower, they will also spot issues in the property, advising you what are the best way moving forward. You will need to ask your solicitor questions, and you need to have the connection to your solicitor, making sure everything goes well. So the next one, potentially, we're looking at to avoid the property deal to fall through, it's that the time is taken. So we're looking at agreement frame with the estate agent as what the expectations are, what your expectations are once the deal is closed. We're looking at process in terms of managing the expectations, how long this should take and who's involved, making sure that there's nothing else going on once you start the process, like mortgage applications, solicitors, making sure that you're on board with the different steps. And then we're looking at the lender surveyor. Once you apply for mortgage application, what during the process for valuation, what kind of common result coming back, how could you address those issues, and what are the situation in terms of addressing the issue, how long it take. You know, it could be sending contractor to get it done and whatever that is, and who's paying for it. Then we're looking at your own solicitor and the seller solicitor in terms of, you know, how long should they do one thing, and do they talk to each other frequently to move things forward. And then number 5 is how long it takes. Now, this is quite important, because if you close the deal and if the seller needed to sell the property very fast, they expecting 3 months, they move out. But if you take a new 6 months, they might not be patient enough to wait. And then that's one of the reasons that the deal fall through. They were then looking for a cash buyer. They would advertise the property because nothing's gone on fast enough. So the expectation for how long it taken is important. And this, you cannot talk about it after the property deal is done. You got to actually fact find before you close the deal, because when you meet the seller or talk to the agent at the time before the deal is closed, you need to have the expectation about when you should have the money for, as when the mortgage should have been placed, the deposit should have been placed, and all the process should have been done. If it's a solicitor too slow, you change solicitor. If the money is not in hand, you raise money. And if the mortgage is not in place, you might even change mortgage company and get someone else to do it, or get a bridging company to do it, so that you don't lose the deal. The time it's taking is crucially important. That expectation, you and the seller have to be in the same page. And because then, if they need to complete fast, you can act on it. And there was a few different occasions when I was talking to seller, they must complete on a certain day to avoid their deal fell through, because they're in a chain. They need to be buying another house by selling this one. And next Monday is the mortgage offer expired. They got to complete the next one. I have to come up with the money on a Thursday, Friday, the previous week to get it completed. Imagine if you're not on board with it. So time it taken is crucially important. You communicate how long do they expect to move out? Do they expect to hand over the keys, and whether or not they need it by a certain time frame that the deal should complete it. When you then close the deal, you need to have all this in place to ensure that your team that working for you are meeting these deadlines. And that's number one thing, that avoiding the deal fall through, because if you don't hit the deadline, and oftentimes they will have no patience to wait for you. I hope you found it useful. And if you've got any other question about buying property, acquiring property, how to raise finance, and how to increase the cash flow, any questions you may have, please drop that in the comment below, and I will look at what I can do for you. Thank you very much for watching.